Hello there, this is Cindy at cindybdesigns.com. Thank you for joining me today. This is a card that we will be making. I have another angle coming up. I originally started tons of dimension and texture to this. I originally started to do this as a live video without a voiceover, and you're going to see it about the first half because I talk with my hands and they're just going to be flailing all over the place. And this is one of those cards where I started to make and thought I better just turn the camera on and wing this and make the best out of it. So we have a basic gray card base. I've been using the All Things Fabulous bundle this week, which is fantastic. It is a 2, 3, 4, 5-step stamping with all the images that you can see coming up. And I've been experimenting with some very creative out-of-the-box sketches lately that are really not difficult to do at all. So I hope that you join me. And again, everything will be over on the blog at cindybdesigns.com. There'll be a link to the direct blog post right underneath this. And I just saw the holiday catalog, and I will have some products for that for you for you next weekend. It's fabulous. You're going to love it. So I have no clue what I'm doing there. Okay, that is from Ornate Borders. And I did double up the basic gray cardstock. When I cut that out, I went back and forth in the Big Shot a few times. But that is what it looks like. And see that notch over there on the left and on the right I'm showing you? You want to put that notch right there when you die cut this out at the edge of your cardstock, like I'm showing you right there. And you can use the magnetic base plate, which will help you cut it out as well, or just go through the Big Shot a few times. But that card does end up being 4 1/4 across by not quite 5 all the way down, just because of the way I made it up. It's like 4 7/8. So I took the second largest of the stitch dies and I die cut that out of regular Whisper White cardstock. And I used that image panel right there to kind of determine the length of my card and the width too, because I did want it to be 4 1/4 across. And the 2 strips of DSP that you see on the left, we'll get to that in a second. I'm taking a piece of basic black cardstock here, and I put the embossing buddy down on it. I have no problem cutting out my sentiment stamps, whether it be the clear stamps or the cling rubber stamps. I make what I have work for me. So I'm inking that up in Versamark, getting a good impression there. And I think I'm going to show you that's what we're looking like with that, or no, I'm going to sprinkle white powder over that. I will take it off screen and heat emboss it. However, I do that again off screen because I don't like the way that it turned out. If you have any strays, take an angled paintbrush and go ahead and whisk them off. So now I'm bringing in the Banner Triple Punch, and I end up using that for the vellum part. And there's several different measurements that you can get from one punch. The largest is 2 across, going down to 1 3/4, 1 1/2, and then down to 1 1/4. And you can see how your paper will line up perfectly there. So I'm cutting a piece of Whisper White to 2 inches across. I'm not worried about the length. I'm going to go ahead, put that in, check my sentiment to make sure that that will work for me, and it did. Give that a quick punch out, and that's what we look like. And I'm going to adhere that to my Stamparatus foam mat with a little piece of the painter's tape I told you about. Line up the sentiment. Well, you have to move it down a little bit more. I'm going to line the rest of the sentiment up across there, making sure it's okay. And then I'm going to, act like I'm doing surgery there a little bit. And take the bone folder, not the bone folder, the end of my pokey tool and just kind of crease it in there a little bit so when I pick up that stamp, it's not going to pull my paper back up. I'm going to ink that up with Memento Tuxedo Black, and I bounced the lid on there a few times, and it still worked out. I did not do the vellum on Scream. I did, but I had to cut it out because it just turned out to be a hot mess. So I got that embossed down again with white powder. And now I'm going to start cutting everything out and then putting together that sentiment. So I pulled in my Stampin' trimmer, and I wanted to make sure that I was going to get a good cut. That ends up being like 5/8 of an inch. And when I do stuff like this, except for the bottom sentiment with a banner punch, I cut long because it's easier to cut longer than it is to have to redo it because you cut too short. So I'm pulling in, I have no idea what I'm doing there for you. I'm pulling in that Fabulous, and again, that was the one that I ended up redoing, but the dimensions or the measurements, they are going to be the exact same. And I use our paper trimmer to do that because I can see through it. The arm does lock down, but since that is so tiny, again, it was really, I use that little painter's tape just, again, for an insurance policy there. So I'm putting everything together there, kind of starting to assemble the card a little bit, or at least the sentiment part of it. And I am going to just kind of fudge on there how I want it a little bit, get everything lined up pretty much from the left on over, and how I want to make this look, because I do want everything kind of a little bit wonky. But while you see me do this, which is pretty self-explanatory, by the way, that holiday catalog, oh, it is nice. It is really nice. There's sleighs, and the designer series paper is I can't wait to get my hands on it. Let's just put it that way. It's amazing. There's newsprint in there, and you know how crazy I am about that. Just a lot of staples that I see for myself. So back to the card. I put my sentiments together with painter's tape, how I kind of want to keep it, and it's a little bit more of a collage card, which I've been crazy about lately. Put our 2 flower images down, pick them back up, and that will let me know to where I want to put them down. And again, I use my grid mat on the Stamparatus for absolutely everything. That's an invaluable tool. I am inking that up with Daffodil Delight, those 2 flowers, and I'm taking my brayer and just getting a nice, good impression. When it's wintertime and I have a sweater on, I just pull my sleeve over it and put it down that way. I didn't get a good impression at that petal I just pointed out, but my sentiments are going to cover it up, so I'm not worried about it at all. And that is what we're looking like. I did put a couple of the leaf images on a couple of our blocks, and that's being inked up in Granny Apple Green. So we have basic gray, whisper white, basic black, Granny Apple Green, Daffodil Delight, and over there to the far left is just a smidge of cinnamon cider. Yeah, a little bit of a mouthful. That is a complementary color, but it gives like a little pizzazz to the design. So I went ahead and left it and didn't bring it in anywhere else. I was getting kind of bare and the cardstock there in the bottom right, so I went ahead and put another leaf. Now, putting that together was kind of challenging. I have white mini Stampin' Dimensionals, and they're going to go on the back of the basic black cardstock and our little white punch sentiment triangle there. And I keep flipping everything over because I know what I'm going to have hang over. But since that our image panel will be on Stampin' Dimensionals, by the way, which I will put them on later on in the card, I had to keep it even without the overhang, or I wanted the overhang to overhang and not be lifted up. So I cut some tear and tape there, little slivers, so I can get that vellum paper down because I don't want it to show through. And you saw me earlier where I marked it up to get the banner edges I wanted to. So I slipped that in there and I lined it up. You know, I centered it up even though there's not like a direct throw into how I wanted to do it. You just flip it over and work it out that way. And I'll put like a little teeny tiny piece of the tear and tape on the bottom of that basic black sentiment panel there. And when you see me pull out the dimensionals and try to put it together, I stick my butterfingers down there and everything just gets flopped around, but it does work out. I wasn't like thinking all the way there, so yeah, it happens. So that's where you can see where I'm getting everything lined up a little bit, especially that little sliver there on the left. And I'm going to pull it off, just the tear and tape on the right, get my finger down there, and then get that sentiment all the way up there a little bit, or as much as I can to match up with the tear and tape. So I'm pulling everything off right now, and I've been talking for like almost 12 minutes straight. This is where the full-size Stampin' dimensionals go on the back. I'm going to lay down, I think 8 or so. 3 on the sides, 2 in the middle, because, you know, don't want anything additional saggy in our lives, at my age anyway. And I'm going to pull that off the back, the release paper, and get that adhered down to our card front there, especially centering it up right and then top to bottom, because I know that my left side is taken care of. And the 2 DSPs we use are from the Brights and the Subtles. I only have right now 3 packs of designer series paper from our new annual catalog. So I'm using the 6x6 DSP up an awful lot and pretty much on every project that I use. And that's just one of my minimalist things and how I stay true to my budget. So that's why I'm putting everything together, and I was able to put another additional 2 mini Stampin' dimensionals on the back just to help keep the vellum and the Whisper White cardstock down, attached to the vellum a little bit more. So there's 4 over there. And now we're getting in the home stretch, and we're going to start to assemble this all the way. And I'm making sure that everything is lined up right, the way I like it, cover up that petal where I didn't get a really good impression, and that is it. That is what we're looking like. We have great sentiments, great stamping, DSP, interest to the cardstock, die cutting. Those are our pearls that I colored up with basic black markers, the alcohol markers, Stampin' Blends a couple weeks ago for our video. And I'm just putting 2 of the pearls on there because we have the basic black sentiment, which is my rule of odds thing. So I have 3 black things. I'm good with the Granny Apple Green because we have the stamped Granny Apple Green and the designer series paper. The gray is all by itself, like the cinnamon cider DSP, but it works out. It pulls together very well. So I had it do a 3rd daffodil delight rather than 2 because it did not look well. It didn't look right to me at all. So I'm pulling in like these little dandelion images and putting that in the very center of our leaf down there at the bottom right. So I do thank you for joining me today, and that is our card. I hope that you hit like and subscribe. Please sign up for my newsletter. If you need anything, let me know. I did not do the inside, but go ahead and die cut another piece of cardstock for Whisper White from the Stitch Rectangles, and that is how we look. So have a fantastic weekend, and I will see you back next week. And again, if you have any questions or anything like that, please let me know. And that is our beautiful card. God bless, and I will see you again next week. Thank you for joining me today.